On July 20th, 1990, after 4 months of filming, Edward Scissorhands was ready for its crowning touch, a music score by Burton's favorite film composer, Danny Elfman.
Edward Scissorhands was definitely one of my favorite film scores because it was a very simple, clear narrative, musical narrative. There's an alienated character, and I think that's what he relates to, and that's what I relate to. A lot of directors would have listened to Edward's theme and go, I don't get it. This sounds like a Romanian, Hungarian, Jewish theme, and this character is not that. You know, there's nothing Eastern European about it. You know, what's the story here? But Tim would never do that. I don't think that way, and Tim doesn't think that way. When I finished Edward, I actually didn't think I'd done a very good job. I thought I'd kind of failed Tim, and in the end, it ended up being my most imitated piece. I've heard it used in 7, 8 major motion pictures and God knows how many commercials.
But in 1990, as Edward's release date approached, the movie's fate was anything but certain. Its delicate tone seemed even riskier after the worldwide success of Batman.
He and I were worried that people would say, oh, Tim Burton, the guy who did Batman, this is going to be like a big, you know, comic book movie. And this was a smaller personal story.
Previews, are always a disaster, especially with Tim's movies. Odd or unique movies always preview terribly. Tim was pacing around in the lobby trying not to throw up. And the audience who saw it so didn't get it. I mean, there were guys in Orange County where we previewed it that were actually siding with the Anthony Michael Hall's character, the bad guy.
It's just a scratch, Jim, really, it's okay.
Stay back,
no,
okay? Touch again, I'll kill you.
No, it's no big deal, it's just...
Call a doctor, you skewered kid.
No, wait, listen,
Stay away from her, okay? I mean it. You can't touch anything without destroying it. Who the hell do you think you are even hanging around here anyway, huh?
And they were going, well, I mean, he was right to want to beat up that fag because that fag was trying to take his girl. I swear to God, I kid you not, these were comments from the focus group after the movie. So you can imagine how Tim would react finishing that movie and hearing this kind of stuff from an audience.
It was a tricky film to market because from the visual you could think it was a horror movie or a scary character.
They did an ingenious ad campaign. They had all these images of the topiary, and all it said was Edward was here.
Gradually, the message was out that Edward Scissorhands was a movie that defied any label. And on the eve of its release, preview audiences responded in a way that delighted the story's author.
It might be best if he goes back up there, because at least there he's safe.
And by the end, I heard sobbing. I was the happiest person on the planet. But while I was rejoicing, Tim's in the bathroom puking, so I imagine that it was all pretty tough for him.
On December 7th, 1990, Edward Scissorhands opened to solid box office and enthusiastic reviews, especially for Johnny Depp, who had finally shattered his pretty boy stereotype.
Hold me.
I can't.
You really felt for this character who was obviously very gentle and a very deep, poetic, beautiful character that was hindered by these dangerous hands. Tim just makes these people so sympathetic and so accessible.
For Tim Burton, one rave review meant more than any other. Vincent Price loved the film, and his friendship with Burton only deepened until the actor's death 3 years later at age 82.
My dad loved the whole experience of working on Edward Scissorhands. It was really his swan song.
Edward Scissorhands marked a happy marriage of many creative talents, but ultimately, it reflected the singular vision of Tim Burton, who drew upon his own fears and insecurities to create a figure embraced by audiences around the world.
Goodbye. I love you.
I was able to write a love poem for Tim to express himself through. It was my gift to him. And it is an extremely personal film for him, and I'm thrilled that I could give him the means through which to do that.
It truly represents Tim Burton's vision and not mine. There is a seamless film with characters and settings and stories that is completely 100% Tim Burton.
Edward Scissorhands is, to me, Tim at his essence, because there's the gothic horror, there's this sort of bizarre sense of humor, but there's an underlying gentleness to it, which I think is wonderful.
Everybody at one point or another feels like Edward Scissorhands. They feel misunderstood, they feel excluded. Edward's yearning to be accepted and his ultimate acceptance of himself, those things are going to be felt by people forever.